Let's talk to Dr. Rakib Ehsan, who is, of course, from the Henry Jackson Society. He's got a new survey out that he's done, some research into anti-Semitism amongst the Muslim community. Dr. Rakib, very good morning to you. Welcome.
Morning, Mike. How are you?
Yeah, very well indeed. How's it going up in your neck of the woods? Is it pretty hot?
Well, in Luton, it is very hot. And we also have a very warm breeze as well. So it has a very distinctly, Bangladeshi feel. It does remind me of a spell I spent in Bangladesh back in 2017. So, yeah, it's very hot here, Mike.
Well, this is one of the things that we've been told by our sleep expert. If you just imagine that you're on holiday, you'll find it a lot easier to get around, a lot easier to sleep over the course of the evening instead of worrying about it.
Yeah, I think that ultimately it's all about having a positive mindset. You know, it's a classic case. Some people, they complain when the weather's too cold, and then when it gets hot, then they're also complaining when it comes to that as well.
No,
so,
absolutely right. Now,
yeah.
I'm going to be asking you about the Migrant story in a little while, Rakib, because I'd like to get your view on that. But first of all, tell us about this study that you've done into anti-Semitism. Obviously, anti-Semitism has been very much at the front and centre of conversations about the Labour Party recently, but you've done a slightly different survey.
Sure. So, Mike, we've known for some time that when it comes to anti-Semitic views, they're more prevalent within British Muslim communities. So there was a report published by the Institute for Jewish Policy Research back in 2017, which showed that when it comes to anti-Semitic views, such as thinking that the Holocaust is a myth or it's been exaggerated, or that Jewish people have a sort of natural feeling of group superiority over non-Jews, these views are more concentrated among British Muslims. So building on this existing research, I've produced a report which looks at which parts of British Muslim communities are more likely to hold anti-Semitic views and which sections of the British Muslim population are less likely to hold those views.
And as far as that delineation, what would you say is the main difference between those two groups?
So I would say, Mike, from the study, there's a very positive case for integration. So British Muslims who are part of close friendship groups where their close friends are from a non-Muslim background, they are less likely to believe in anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. They're more likely to have positive orientations towards non-Muslim groups in British society. In comparison, British Muslims who are part of predominantly or indeed exclusively Muslim friendship groups, they're more likely to believe in anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, more likely to be of the view that Jewish people have too much control when it comes to the global banking system, global political leadership, global media, global entertainment, even the global arms production industry. And they're less likely to have positive views towards non-Muslim groups. So I would say that there's a very clear thread which runs through the report that I produced, is that British Muslims who are better integrated, especially through their close friendship groups, are less likely to hold these problematic anti-Semitic views and are more likely to hold positive views of non-Muslims living in British society.
Right. And does much of that have to do with how communities are actually put together and what the schools are like? Because obviously if you've got Muslim kids going to school with lots of other kids who are not Muslim, then that's likely to be more integrated than if they're going to, say, a faith school.
Sure, Mike, I've always made the point that when it comes to mixing with people from a different cultural, racial, ethnic or religious background, there are going to be misunderstandings, and that there will be a degree of, you could say, a degree of conflict. That is just inevitable in a society as diverse as ours. But I firmly believe, and this is backed by research, that over time, when you have those sort of intergroup interactions, mixing with people from different backgrounds, that does help to build bonds of trust, which cut across different ethnic and religious groups. And that helps to build more positive perceptions of people who may be different to you or may hold a different religious background, different ethnic background, different racial background. So I think there is a very positive story to tell from this research when it comes to the benefits of social integration.
Yeah, because, I mean, I was interested last weekend when we were having the announcements from government about locking down parts of Manchester, East Lancashire, and also parts of West Yorkshire. There were some from the Muslim community, specifically the Muslim Council of Britain, who were more or less making out that it was kind of racist for the government to do this because it was a kind of attack on Eid and the celebrations that the Muslim community were going to be involved in. But I didn't see it that way, and I don't think a lot of people did.
Well, I certainly didn't see it that way, Mike, if truth be told. Ultimately, we're in the middle of a global pandemic, and the UK government's public health responses cannot be tailored around Islamic holidays or any religious
Mm,
holidays for that matter, Mike, because that would be irresponsible behavior.
yeah. No, absolutely right. And similarly, let's talk a little bit about the migrant problem at the moment. We could have raised it last week with Nigel Farage when he came on here and
Sure.
quite shockingly told me that 38,000 migrants are currently being put up at the expense of the UK government in hotels around the country who have all come here illegally. And it seems as though we've got twice as many people now coming as there were already from last year's total. This is a massive problem for the government, isn't it?
Well, I'd say that the government on this issue, I think that it's losing public support.
Yeah.
And the reality of the matter is this government is putting forward this politics of security that would have strong borders and all the rest of it. Now, this current, and I would go as far as saying this is a crisis in itself now, Mike,
Yeah.
if truth be told. And I feel that there will be many voters who voted for the Conservative Party in the 2019 UK general election who will think that this isn't quite what I voted for.
Mm.
And I think that the Home Secretary, Priti Patel in particular, her personal ratings have not been very good for some time, Mike. I think that point needs to be made very clear.
Yeah.
And I think that there's many people, many voters who will be thinking that she's simply not up to the job.
Well, I think that's the point. There are lots of words being spoken, lots of things being said, and lots of kind of, strong responses, if you like, verbally to the problem that we see every single day. But we don't actually see any action. It's all very well saying let's send in the Navy. Well, to do what exactly? To pick these people up and bring them to shore in a slightly, as it was described by our friends at Migration Watch, in a slightly bigger boat.
Well, I think the UK government, it really should not be in the business of disrespecting the British voters. They can very clearly tell the difference between rhetoric and reality.
Yeah.
And at the moment, there's a very clear gap between the political rhetoric and what is being done in reality when it comes to this particular issue, Mike.
Right. I mean, I've been advising people who listen to this show to send letters to their MPs to ask them about whether or not they are aware of any illegal immigrants being housed in their communities and in their constituencies. And it's incredible how few MPs are actually bothering to respond to their constituents.
Well, I think it's often the case that MPs, they don't like to engage with admittedly sensitive issues, even when they are when local constituents take the effort to engage with them. In my view, as I've said many times before, there is that the government, the Conservative Party, they were given a stonking majority.
Yeah,
that's the truth, and much of that was based on the fact they were putting forward this politics of security. Okay, now the reality of the matter is, at the moment, the way they're managing certain issues, such as this one, it doesn't match with what they promised the British people. And I really feel that the Home Secretary in particular, she's framed herself as a sort of socially conservative firebrand when it comes to these kind of issues. But at the moment, that's not being reflected on how certain issues are being managed, Mike.
No, that's absolutely right. And just to go back to anti-Semitism for a moment, there's been a lot of talk around Jeremy Corbyn and Keir Starmer in the last week or so, whether or not Keir Starmer is going to take the opportunity, shall we say, to kick Jeremy Corbyn out of the party. What do you think is going to happen there?
Well, I think that the reality of the matter is Jeremy Corbyn might not be leader of the Labour Party anymore, but his presence is still an issue. There's no two ways about it. Labour really have to react robustly to what comes out of the report. For me, I think that the findings are going to be pretty damning. That would be my prediction. The reality of the matter is, Mike, we still have a section of the Labour Parliamentary Party. In my view, they're deeply unhelpful if the party is looking to improve its image in terms of, wanting to tackle anti-Semitism. And I'd really make this point as well, that Jeremy Corbyn's his leadership, it has led to a fundamental breakdown in the relationship between the Labour Party and British Jewish voters, including British Jewish voters who traditionally voted for the Labour Party.
Right.
In terms of what can be done, there have been rumours of the whip being taken, the party whip being taken off Jeremy Corbyn. I'm not sure that would happen. To be honest, that would be a very robust course of action.
Mm.
But what I would say is that while the likes of Jeremy Corbyn are in the parliamentary party, it is going to be difficult for Labour to improve its image when it comes to the issue of anti-Semitism.
Yeah. And that's the other question, I suppose, finally, for you, Dr. Rakib. Is there a connection between what you've found in some Muslim communities in terms of anti Semitism and the Labour Party's anti Semitism?
Well, I'd make this point, Mike. The reality of the matter is the Labour Party commands very high levels of electoral support within the broader British Muslim population. Now, if one is very serious about tackling anti-Semitism, they can't be selective about what kind of anti-Semitism that is. The reality of the matter is that anti-Semitism, I call it the one ring of racism.
Mm.
It unites far left, far right, and radical Islamist ideologues. Now, it's comfort zone politics for Labour to confront and talk tough on far right anti-Semitism, but my report clearly shows that anti-Semitic views in British society, they tend to be particularly concentrated within British Muslim communities. So the Labour Party there, they have to be honest about where anti-Semitic views are more concentrated, which groups tend to hold them more, and they have to tackle anti-Semitism irrespective of the electoral risks involved.
Yeah. I think that's absolutely right. Dr. Rakib Ehsan from the Centre on Radicalisation and Terrorism at the Henry Jackson Society. Thanks very much indeed.